Welcome to the Modise Network. On the show, the DA promises to put a job in every home, and the question is, will this message help them win at least 3 provinces as they expect? Mmusi Maimane talks to us ahead of today's Manifesto launch. Later on, Finance Minister Tito Mboweni says South Africans have to bear the burden of a 290 billion rand interest on the national debt. But how is government managing taxpayers' money? The Auditor General, Kimi Makwetu, joins the network. The Democratic Alliance prides itself on its governance track record of the Western Cape and the municipalities under its control. With elections less than 3 months away, the party believes that citizens throughout the country will remember that when they cast their votes on the 8th of May. The DA has been the thorn on the ANC's side, repeatedly highlighting the corruption scandals of the ruling party. But the party suffers from its share of troubles, reports of cabals within their ranks, the perception that it is a white party that is opposed to black empowerment, and that it lacks ideas to bring the nation together. But are these perceptions real? And does the DA offer a compelling vision for the nation? The leader of the Democratic Alliance, Mr. Mmusi Maimane, joins me ahead of the launch of his party's manifesto. And we invite you to also engage us on social media using the hashtag #TheModise Network. Dr. Maimane, a pleasure to have you with us on the program. We appreciate a big day for you today.
Absolutely, and thank you very much, Pratim. And it's a great day for us. It's a great day for South Africa. It's a great day for citizens of our nation. So.
But then you are launching after your manifesto, that is, after President Cyril Ramaphosa has spoken and given a sense of where he wants to take the country, and the Minister of Finance has also come out with his report and is showing signs that he wants to fix things. So is there much that you can do? They might have stolen a march on you. That's what I mean.
Not at all. But Tim, first of all, let's understand South Africa and where it sits at the moment. We are 25 years into our democracy. Still today, we are still discussing pit latrines. 4 out of 10 adults in this country don't work. 50% of young people are unemployed. Majority of our households are female-headed, and half of our citizens live below the poverty line. When you put it like that, you begin to understand already. Fighting corruption is an aspect of what we have to do, but we have to reform the way South Africa operates. And from having listened to the President, having listened to the Minister of Finance, I've become all too aware of the fact that we're going to get more of the same, and there is no agenda for reform. Our message today is that we have an agenda for reform. We want to bring change in South Africa. We want to make sure that, in fact, cities take the forefront of economic growth, and we must address the challenge of creating work for our people where more adults work. And I articulate it by saying I want a job in every home. Because that's the vision. That's what we've got to pursue. We've got to make sure at least there's an income in every household in our country. And therefore, our fundamental focus is that our record of governance demonstrates the fact that actually unemployment decreases where DA is in government. We reduce it and unemployment reduces. And therefore, if you are not focused on just fighting the scourge of corruption and focused on actually advancing the governance model so that we can deliver for more of our citizens, that's the type of government we need in the country.
Now, I've said something about the perceptions in the public's imagination, and your position as the DA on the land question, which I think the EFF has been able to exploit, which creates the impression, especially in the black community, that you are not necessarily pro the aspirations of black people. From your research and your interactions with the communities, what sense are you getting from them in relation to the EFF in particular?
No, I think citizens in the country realize the fact that whilst others talk about land reform and land restitution, we've been doing it. We've been doing it within the Constitution. We've demonstrated to the people of South Africa that in urban centers, we believe that citizens must be able to get title. Why should we go back to a South Africa where the state owns all the land, which is what the EFF are proposing? I think citizens realize where the DA is in place, 6,000 in Johannesburg alone since the DA has come in, and families who have been able to own title to their own homes. And that's a powerful, compelling thing. In the Western Cape, it's been now over 100,000. The objective is to say that let's turn South Africans not to be tenants of the state, but to be owners of property. When you look at redistribution and restitution, we've shown that in the programs where we've initiated, 60% of land has been actually, in those programs, have ensured that it's been restituted, where citizens are now owners of that land. And we want to roll out that program across Gauteng, Northern Cape, and the provinces of our country so that more citizens are able to own, not less. So we don't treat this matter as a function of saying it's a contestation between black versus white. We think that South Africans of both black and white can commit to this program and ensure that restitution occurs in South Africa.
Well, but I suppose the argument has been crafted in to say that it is correcting a historical wrong, that the majority of land and thus privileges reside with a minority of people, less than 10% of the white community, that therefore you need to embark on this program of expropriation of land for purposes of restoring the old order, as it were, making sure that everybody has equal access to land.
And equality of rights is not a pie. It's not like you're taking from some and giving it to others and therefore it becomes less. What we desperately want, Pratim, in South Africa is when I talk about this One South Africa for All, which is a vision that animates, drives me, it doesn't treat races as a contestation of each other. 1994 is a prime example. You will recall, it wasn't a victory of one race over another. It was South Africans who defeated a system of apartheid, because across those who fought against the apartheid system were a diversity of South Africans. And today we face the same confrontation in a South Africa that is unequal. We want all citizens to contribute to the solutions of our problems. Otherwise, we end up as a contest of one race versus another. Therefore, it is as imperative for the minority, for white South Africans, to contribute to the program of restitution and reform as much as it is for South Africans who are black to be able to benefit in addressing that historical injustice. It's a challenge that requires all citizens, not some. Otherwise, you are going to make it a zero-sum game where one race triumphs over another. And that's never been our historical position. Neither should it be our prospective one.
Now, the DA has raised many points in Parliament regarding corruption, even putting in Parliament motions of no confidence in the former President Jacob Zuma. Now, when you look at what's going on at the different commissions of inquiry, particularly the Zondo Commission, what do you make of those revelations?
No, they tell us that there's a system within the ANC that ultimately has captured the whole organization. That corruption cannot be reduced to one individual. You have to have a system that works all the way across. And therefore, the eradication of corruption is indeed the eradication of the ANC in its current formulation. It is about making sure that we pick the best people to go work for the state so that they can hold people to account. It's about restoring the institutions that actually govern our fight against corruption. But the most crucial thing, and I will make it even later on today, is to say that we need to take politicians and put them behind bars. We need a 15-year sentence for politicians who are corrupt so that we can demonstrate to citizens that no one is above the law, that we are all equal before the law. So the fight against corruption is a fight against a system that perpetuates corruption.
But then people say, okay, talk is cheap, it's easy for you to say that, but the DA has its own fair share of troubles, and mention Tshwane, for instance, the Cleared Africa contract. What is happening there?
Undeniably, and this is where the DA, we can hold our heads high, where I'm proud of what our governments do. I'm proud of the government in Tshwane. When we recognized that Cleared Africa was poorly adjudicated, that it would benefit a few at the expense of the many, and that the municipality had not acted in the manner that it did, we took action. We took action against the most senior public representative there, who is the city manager. We then proceeded deliberately to say that contract must be set aside, and I'm almost certain that in the next number of days you will discover very quickly that that contract is set aside. In the DA, we don't just talk about acting, we do. Johannesburg, as an example, we have already investigated over 300 cases of corruption against senior officials. We've gone against politicians. There are already 3 or 4 politicians that will be put behind bars because of the DA government. So we certainly don't shy away from it.
But you know, let me interrupt you there and ask about the mayor of Tshwane, because the perception is that he got pulled out of Tshwane and now is your candidate for Gauteng precisely to remove him from the Glad Africa embarrassment, the Glad Africa scandal.
Nothing could be further from the truth, because all evidence is coming out now. Even the Auditor General has made a very clear statement to say, in fact, when we look at what happened with Glad Africa, we think that as an audit opinion, and the principal accounting officer as the city manager, that there was something irregular about that contract, therefore it must be set aside. So nothing to do with the political administration. We stood proudly and said, we will investigate, we will hold people account. We didn't remove him because of that. We removed him because I believe we've got to govern in Gauteng. We want a Gauteng where life as demanding will never happen anymore. We want a Gauteng where jobs are created here so more citizens can participate in the economy. To achieve that, it's a bit like going into a final. You want all your players focused on only one objective. Solim Simanga was candidate for the DA, and that was in October. That was way before even the adjudication of all of the Glad Africa issue. I felt it was important that once we knew when the election date was, once we knew when it was going to be proclaimed, he should go focus on being a candidate for us.
I get a sense that Gauteng is going to be your battleground in the forthcoming elections, right? Looking at the material that you're putting out, the billboards that you've been putting up, and they get destroyed as a consequence thereof. Well, I mean, how ready are you? How prepared are you as the DA to take Gauteng? What else are you doing to try and win the province?
Without doubt, it's not even a function of just billboards. They just tell the people the truth about what's happening, about that here's a government that's killed citizens in life as Itimeni. It tells the truth about the fact that here's a government that's already taken power out of the people, and now we're going through load shedding or power cuts. What we need is to say to ourselves that not only are we prepared in our governance infrastructure, the DA prides itself at being the best government in the country comparatively. Where we're in government, unemployment is low, and as I've said, most crucially, even our audit opinions indicate the fact that no one's money is stolen. The second province is that as Gauteng is only at 52%, which means the next objective is to say that we've got to bring that here to Gauteng, and we've been preparing public representatives to take up senior.
What is the size of your support, by the way, the DA in Gauteng?
We're heading, if you look at the last local government elections, we now govern between two metros. It's in the early 30s. And I think that we could be able to ensure that the ANC doesn't get an outright majority. People in Joburg said exactly the same thing. And now here we are running Johannesburg, the same in Tshwane. And we're going to go out here in Gauteng to produce the biggest government because citizens in Gauteng are all too aware of the fact that things aren't going in the way they'd like to do. And even on the economic front, it shows the fact that Herman Mashaba is already, in the last quarterly labor force survey, 110,000 jobs have been created in Joburg. Imagine what we could do in Gauteng if we could add more of those jobs here.
Mmusi Maimane is the leader of the DA and my guest this morning as we discuss with him ahead of the launch of the manifesto of the party, and he will be telling me more about the contents of that manifesto. DA leader Mmusi Maimane after the break.